Welcome to the Fairy Podcast with Winslow. My name is Winslow Vale, and I'm the founder of Fairy School. I'm here to create a safe space for you to explore your imagination, your heart magic, and the mysteries of the fairy worlds. This is a perfect time for you to connect with the fairies, to ask questions, share your dreams, and discover fairy practices and stories that can help you build more self-love, healthy happiness, and inner calm. The fairies are so glad you are here. As we begin, we invite you to take a deep breath into your belly, to relax your body, and to feel the curiosity flowing in your heart. Now, slip into your magical fairy clothes, feel your wings gently unfold, and awaken your fairy senses as you learn, imagine, and grow at Fairy School. In today's Fairy Podcast, we will hear an amazing and special story from a woman named Bridget. And then we will bring in a fairy practice for connecting with your heart and your imagination, which then allows you to connect in with your fairy self and the fairies of love and light. So we'll dive in with Bridget. Hello, Bridget. It is so wonderful to have you here at the Fairy Podcast with me and the fairies of love and light and all the children or adults who may be listening. And this part of the podcast is about sharing a fairy story or some experience that you've had with the fairies. And so I know Bridget lives in Idaho, and she has a crystal shop among many things. And then Bridget, do you want to share just a wee little bit about what you do with people to help them hear the messages of magic, of the fairies, of their angels?
Yeah, Winslow, thank you so much for having me. Part of what I do is I kind of help I help people connect to the deepest layers of wisdom within them, because when they are connected deep within and are able to hear that inner voice, then they are more likely to be able to hear the voices of those things that are unseen in the 3D reality, such as the fairies.
Oh, so that is so special too, just what you said, where it's about feeling your own heart and the energy in your own heart, listening to your heart, and then that helps you hear the whispers from the fairies or the other beings, the magical beings. And so Bridget has a really fun experience with the fairies and the gnomes. And so, Bridget, do you want to just tell us about your experience, and then I'll kind of come in here and there with little questions?
Sure. So one of the funnest experience and unexpected experiences that I've had is I was called over to a friend's house because she had been having some issues go on within her dryer vent system in the basement of her house. And they had worked on it and worked on it and had all these repairmen over to try to fix it. And there was just really no explanation for why this vent system would not work. So she was like, well, maybe I need some energy clearing help. And so I went over there, and I just kind of went and I went and sat outside to just kind of to get the feel of it. And all of a sudden below me, I saw a gnome family underneath her deck in the hill. So she lived on this hill. And in the ground underneath her home, not directly underneath it, it was kind of in her yard, there was a couple, a man and a woman, a married couple, two gnomes.
Oh,
And when I tuned into them, they were really surprised I could see them, and I was really surprised that they could see me. And so started a conversation and I asked them if everything was okay, and they said that they were not happy, that they were the last gnomes in their area because it was now, it had this whole mountain had a lot of houses on it. And so this is kind of where us as humans go wrong in America, is that we don't look for the fairies' homes or the gnomes' homes before we build. So if you were to go to Ireland or Scotland, it is actually a law that you have to have a person who can converse with fairies and check lines before things can be built to respect the fairies' lands. And we don't do that here in America. And so all the gnomes had left, other than this couple. And boy, were they stubborn. They were stomping their feet and they say, "This is our home and we are not leaving. And how dare these humans build their homes on top of our homes?" And well, I said, "These houses are here to stay." I said, "Is there any way that we can come to an agreement, where you're happy?" I said, "Because this is what's going on in this house." And they said, "Oh yeah, well they built their house right on our entryway." So the heat duct and the dryer vent where the air went out of the house, it was actually the tunnel up and out of their own home in the ground. And so as they use their own tunnel, it would mess up the energy within the house and cause the dryer vents to fail and the and the vent system to plug up, so to speak, and not work. So basically the two systems, the gnomes and the humans, were fighting against each other.
Oh
And
my
to get
goodness.
out,
This is amazing. And one question before we continue.
uh-huh.
When you were connecting with the gnomes, did you hear them? Did you see them? How were you connecting with them?
So what I do is I sit down and I get really quiet within myself and I go inward. And then I open up my third eye and I connect, and then I just set the intention to connect energetically
Mhm.
to anything that is kind of misaligned, or the energy is not flowing right within the place around me.
Hmm.
And since I've already had a connection to the elemental realm, I saw the gnomes right away.
Yeah, it's like you were with your imagination, with your heart,
Yeah.
with your energy around you.
Yeah, because generally we tend to see the things in the other realms through our own filters. Now, say I always see the gnomes, right, with the pointy hats, the little garden gnomes that we see, in the gardens, because that's my filter. Now, whether they really look like that or not, that's how they show up still in my filter. So I understand that that's the energy or being that's showing up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like you have it's like you have your sunglasses that you see through, so you see the gnomes like that for you.
Yeah.
So cool. Okay, this is an incredible story. So keep going, and then I have a couple questions at the end.
Okay. And so here I am trying to talk to them into being, to work together with the humans so that way everybody can be happy. Because the gnomes are angry, the humans in the house are not happy, and to get out of their own home, the gnomes, they have to go up and out of this tunnel every day, to go forage for the roots that they eat and to tend their gardens. And there's just two of them, a man and a woman, and they say, "Well, we can't." And I said, "Well, is there any way we can move this tunnel?" And they said, "Well, we can't do it on our own. When we built our home, we had our whole community helping us, but they have all gone now because they were pushed out of their homes." And I said, "Huh." And I sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, "Well, I know where some other gnomes are." And they were like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "But I don't know how to get them there." I said, let me just tune into them. So about 15 miles away in a wooded area, there's a bunch of gnomes that live in this area by the river. And so energetically, I stretched my consciousness down to the river to those gnomes. And I asked if there was any way that they would be able to come and help this family because this family was very lonely. They were used to having a community. This couple was very lonely. They were used to having a community around them, but they were also too stubborn to leave. Um, and so the other gnomes were very happy to help. And then they actually pointed up to this giant tree fairy. And I looked up, and that was the first time I had ever seen. It was a giant fairy as big as the tallest tree you have ever seen. And his arms kind of are brown and they looked like, gnarly little branches, but in the best way. And he had the kindest face. And what he did was he oversaw the forest and the health of he was kind of the guardian of the forest, and he oversaw the health and the well-being of all the other elementals there. And I looked up at him and he looked at me and I said, "Is there a way that you can get these gnomes to the other gnomes to help them build a new tunnel?" And he just nodded and he built this wagon out of trees. And all of these gnomes hopped into it. And he literally just walked on all the tallest trees to where I was at with this gnome couple. So as he's carrying these gnomes in this wagon, he drops them off and then he goes back and he says, "You just call me when you're done." And this actually happened over the course of a couple days where the gnome men, so to speak, left their place by the river and came up to help the gnome couple, and they rebuilt their tunnel. And now the gnome couple, they were not lonely anymore because now they had a way to actually get down to the community of the other gnomes to visit because of the giant tree fairy, and vice versa. And so he actually comes and picks up the couple when there's parties and celebrations going on. And he also bring up the other gnomes to visit the couple as well. And so the tunnel was moved over the course of a couple days, as it took them quite a while to rebuild it. Um, and the humans were happy. They would leave little gifts at the entrance of the new tunnel. And the gnomes were happy, the couple, because now they had a community back. And the gnomes in the community by the river, well, they were happy too because they had new friends. So it was a win-win for everybody.
Oh, Bridget, that is so amazing and so special. And I even just thought of your name because I thought it's Bridget. And
Yeah.
it's like you created a bridge for the gnomes, the couple, to connect with the tree fairy and the other gnome and fairy community,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is so cool.
Yeah.
And I love that then now they're all communicating. Now they can now communicate to each other in the different places.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Very telepathic. Yeah, they actually talk to each other with their brains. And us humans are able to do that as well if we desire to kind of practice, and if we desire to practice and use that ability within us. We are all telepathic.
Telepathic. And does that mean, can you say a little bit more about what that means?
Yeah, so telepathic means you're not actually speaking with your voice, you're talking to each other by connecting your brains
So
and your
cool.
energies.
That is so cool. And for children that maybe they're curious about the fairies or the gnomes, maybe they connect to them or not, but
Mhm.
what would be one little step that children could do to connect more with the gnomes or the fairies? Like that one first little step.
Well, to just play and imagine that you're already connecting to them.
Hmm, that's perfect. It's like using your imagination,
Mm-hmm.
playing with them. And maybe you're with the big tree fairy, helping him pull his wagon across the treetops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the
And just
coolest.
and
image.
just yeah, and just looking for them and believing that when something pops up that you are communicating with them.
Hmm.
When you're like in wooded areas or by rivers, or places that are extra beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But those are extra special places where there's the magic of the fairies, the gnomes, the nature spirits.
Yeah, yeah, the magic is still intact there.
Hmm. Oh, Bridget, well, that is so special. And the last little question I have is you'd mentioned your third eye. And can you share a little bit about also what your third eye is?
So your third eye is the place within you where you can usually sense the things that are unseen, so to speak. So we have our outward senses that we are always in touch with the physical senses, which is, sight, hearing, sound, feel or feeling, and touching. I might have missed one, but when you are working with your third eye, which is in the center of your brain and it's in connection to your heart in your chest. And a lot of times you just have to close your eyes and picture that third eye there, but that third eye helps you sense things that you cannot see or feel physically on the
Mm.
outside. You have to open it up on the inside. Does that make sense? It's
Yeah,
kind of
it does.
hard to explain.
Yes, no, that's so beautiful. And it's almost like the eyes, the ears, the senses of your heart.
It's the senses that come through your heart within.
Hmm.
And then you use your imagination to see it. Because even though I had never seen a giant, so I didn't know at that time, I did not know that there were actually giant tree fairies. But I had just read this folklore from Ireland, from this gentleman who studies the fairies in Ireland. And he said that there are giant fairies, there are human fairies. So I all of a sudden had those filters in my brain. And so that gave me the capability to stretch my imagination farther of what was possible. And it allowed me to see the giant tree fairy, because in Ireland, they say fairies are all types of shapes and sizes and the way they look. And so once you have those filters in place, then your mind and your third eye and your heart opens more to the things that you are able to see and sense.
Oh, thank you, Bridget. It's like, oh, that's so special for all of us listening. Like there's so much possibility and
Yeah.
we get to use our imaginations to connect with it.
Yeah.
Bridget, thank you so much and such an honor to have you share the fairy story with us and the fairy and gnome story with us.
Oh, of course. It was my pleasure. So much fun.
Oh, just the best. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Isn't that the most amazing story? And notice how, after hearing that conversation with Bridget and that fairy and gnome story, you feel excited, you feel happy and joyful, and your heart and imagination may be open, more open than they were 20 minutes ago. And you're really curious about the fairies now. And Bridget talked to us and taught you how you can use your heart and your imagination to connect with the fairies. And so we can practice that now. And in today's episode, we might practice the first step. And then every fairy podcast, you'll learn something else so that they build on each other. So the first step to connecting with your heart, which, as Bridget told you, is key to connecting with the beautiful fairies and gnomes of love and light. So the first thing you can do is take a deep breath into your belly to pull your focus and your energy into your heart and belly. And maybe place your hand on your heart. And for a moment, use your imagination and your heart and think about an energy that you love. Do you love the energy of kindness? Do you love the energy of freedom? Do you love the energy of courage or strength or curiosity or something else? And maybe write that down. And play with the idea that that energy that you love is in your heart. You love it because it actually is flowing in your heart. So let's take kindness for example. If you love the energy of kindness, you have that energy flowing in your heart. And what would it be like to love the kindness in your heart? What would it be like to love the curiosity or the freedom or the strength or the calm in your heart? You have this beautiful treasure in your heart that's always within you. And you get to love it. And maybe use your imagination to think about what color is that energy in your heart right now? And is it sparkling? What does it look like? What do you sense? And notice how in just doing that, you feel more relaxed, you feel more calm, you can take a deeper breath into your belly. And that is the first step to connecting with the fairies, is to connect with your heart and to connect with the energy that you love that's flowing within you, in your heart. And those are your heart has eyes, your heart has ears, it has senses. And your heart and imagination are what help you believe, sense, connect with the fairies. So thank you all, and that can be your practice until we next meet in our fairy podcast together. Thank you for joining me and the fairies on our fairy podcast. It is an honor to have you with us. Take a moment to notice how much lighter and brighter you feel after connecting with the fairies and the beautiful energy of your own heart. If you want more opportunities to be part of fairy school, the fairies have some special gifts for you. They would love to offer you a free month of fairy letters filled with fairy practices, fairy news, and fairy wonders. The fairies and I would also love to offer you a free 30-minute coaching session where you can connect with your heart magic and inner sparkle even more. And we host a free fairy school class on YouTube Live every Monday at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. You can find more information at winslowvale.com. We can't wait to share more fairy adventures, stories, and practices with you on our next episode. Thank you for listening. See you next time.